Welcome to another installment of This Is Not Normal on the Political Drain podcast with Drill Sergeant Doug, aka Admin Doug, a U.S. Army veteran, teacher, musician, and family man from Jamaica, now fights for justice and democracy through commentary and humor. Follow him on YouTube at Political Drain and at Sons of Liberty Official as Drill Sergeant, aka Admin Doug, continues to protect our freedoms.
Well, we at American Opposition just put out something. It's called the Two Fronts. It's our strategic document for after the election, because we have a take on AI that I don't think anybody has surfaced just yet, and that is around the idea that it's going to displace the white collar workforce. You're already seeing fear among lawyers and among writers and among creatives, because they are the ones that are most exposed by this technological wave. The worst plumber in America has more job security right now than the best lawyer in America, and that actually creates a real opportunity for us to leverage the power of the white working class, and the professional class, to actually create a very strong regulatory environment around AI.
What's up, YouTube? Drill Sergeant here, and welcome to On Your Left with Drill Sergeant Doug. Yeah, that's me. This is the political roundtable, but the kind that doesn't suck. Yeah, meaning that we don't have people on here who are liars, who are partisan hacks, who just talk for the sake of hearing themselves or argue for the sake of argument. So let me introduce you guys to what we got going on after I tell you what the topic is. So, our laws have not caught up with technology. I mean, since the invention of the internet, they haven't caught up with technology, people, and you need to know that. See, it's not only led to privacy breaches, it's not only led to the stupidification of the young ones and the old ones, all of us. It's not just the widespread exploitation of the vulnerable, the mentally vulnerable, the children. But now, it's the leading driver of the biggest wealth gap in our country's history. So if we don't get a handle on this, it's going to get a handle on us. So I decided to get a group of people together who I think are going to give us real insight, as well as candidates that we can vote for if they have the right answers to do something about it. Let me introduce you to our guests. Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos. He's the founder of American Opposition. And we have Aiden Swallow running to be a state rep or state senate. I'll ask her for Arizona. We also have Jordan Herrera, who's his second time back, who is running in Missouri's 4th district as a candidate for Congress. And later on, we're going to have Olivia Logan, founder and CEO of Logan Strategic Solutions, who is that's located in DC, in the belly of the beast, and you can't have a more insider than that. All right, I'll let everybody kind of introduce themselves. Addie, we'll call you Addie since that's what you got on there. Addie Swallow, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Aiden Swallow. My nickname is Addie. And I'm running for Arizona Legislative District 19. It's a state house race. And I'm running mainly for my three main issues are healthcare, education, and Arizona water. So if you live in Arizona, you understand that Arizona is going through a water crisis. We live in the desert. Arizona healthcare, healthcare is an issue across the country. So Arizona is no different. Legislative District 19 is a rural Arizona, so I'm a rural candidate. And we have hospitals closing, we have schools closing. Just a couple weeks ago, one of the middle schools closed, and we have a couple more that potentially are going to close again. Arizona also is ranked in public schooling in the last or second to last or third to last, depends on the year and the metric, but we're always in the last when it comes to public education. So those are my main talking points. For those of you that don't know, Arizona Legislative District 19 is home to Cochise County, which is known nationally for, I believe in 2022, for I don't want to say falsifying, but they had some election shenanigans, and the supervisor that was here eventually went through a lot of legal trouble, and yeah, so we're kind of known for that. So it's kind of a Republican stronghold, but I think now's the time that we can flip it, and if we flip it, then we can change the legislature in Arizona and make their lives better.
I absolutely agree. There is no such thing as a solid red district anymore after Trump has destroyed the lives of every American in America and living abroad. So if there's ever a time to flip a district, it's now. And it's going to be done by people who care about actual Americans. And it's always funny to me how the only time we hear about election fraud is when Republicans are talking about it happening all over from illegal immigrants. But the only time we hear about something being convicted and actually being done, it's them the one that's doing it. I just find that funny, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We have another guy here, a firebrand, Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos. And if there's anybody going to get into a fist fight here with Democrats, it's going to be you. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping we get some sparks in here today. I'm just playing, my friend. How are you, sir?
I'm Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos. I'm the founder of American Opposition. We helped launch the national protest and boycott movement that everybody's seen, that is manifested in multiple brands, everything from the National Day of Protest to No Kings, the Tesla boycott, the mass blackout, remove the regime, the National Day of Protest against ICE, the National Fuck ICE Day, all of that stuff. In one way or another, we've been involved in building and in helping others build. And in trying to fight for Americans from the perspective of the street, making sure we have a frontline battle against Trump. I think the results have been clear. We've manifested an immaculate election last November where Democrats won every race they could win. The Epstein files went from unanimous opposition on the Republican side to their release to a release with one no vote. And I think a record number of Republicans are retiring from Congress. I think all of those are results that are directly connected to this movement. Certainly, they're not something that the Democratic Party is earning. Unfortunately, they haven't been showing up. And in many ways, they've proven themselves to be complicit, or at least to allow for what Trump is doing. They most recently gave him a vote as soon as last week. They gave him a vote to prevent the passage of the bill that would have signaled the House's opposition to the Iran war. So we're here to do the work that the Democratic Party is not doing, unfortunately. We're trying to inspire them to start doing it, but in the meantime, we're trying to represent the interests of the American people, both on the street and in the halls of Congress, and making sure that we're applying a multi-pronged strategy to dealing with the fascism that we've seen rise, and to stand up particularly for the victims of the Trump administration, both at home and abroad. I think most people know what's happening in these concentration camps. They're torturing children. They're squishing the testicles of boys. They're raping young girls in a systematic way. They're dehumanizing people, but also abroad. The USAID cuts have so far cost about 800,000 lives, and 500,000 of those have been children. And those are the most vulnerable people on the planet that are dying because of this Nazism, which has a significant body count. So again, my job is to stand up to it, to call it what it is, to make sure people don't hide behind labels, that people don't hide behind fancy events. I honestly don't understand how anybody could attend the White House Correspondents' Dinner and subscribe to both that tyrant and the complicit press that has enabled him and continues to enable him. I'm not sure how we can wear tuxedos and pretend like everything is okay, because this country is in existential crisis, and we need to understand that, and we need to internalize that, and we need to fight that battle now before it's too late. The middle class in the Weimar Republic knew exactly who the National Socialists were. They just couldn't, take it seriously enough or give it enough credence to stand up and do something about it. We must learn that lesson. If we don't, it will be too late, and we will lose not just America, but the downstream consequences of losing America are a global calamity that we need to understand. And the stakes here couldn't be higher. We need to internalize that. We need to fight for this country, and we need to save it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jordan, please introduce yourself.
My name is Jordan Herrera. I'm running for United States Congress here in Missouri's 4th Congressional District. Now, here in Missouri, we are a rural district. I like to tell folks this also. Of all of the states where Donald Trump tried to gerrymander districts, we are the only district in the United States that was chopped into 3 bits. Now, I originally launched my race running in the 5th, and then it was redrawn into the 4th Congressional, which is where I'm running today. So I'm one of the very few congressional candidates in our country that has had to figure it out, have 2 congressional campaigns in 1 year, 1 cycle, and somehow play off of 2 maps. Even today, we're still trying to argue and figure out how do we play on both maps. There was one in 2025, and then the gerrymandered map from 2020. A lawful map from 2022 and the gerrymandered map from 2025. So we're constantly trying to figure out how do we play in both scenarios. And the one thing that I've learned out on the campaign trail is this: it doesn't really matter what your zip code is or where you're at in terms of our country today, whether you're rural or whether you're urban. 60% of Americans are living below the poverty line. The 2 fastest reasons people find themselves in homelessness are: number 1 reason, housing costs. Number 2, 4 out of 10 people say it's because of healthcare costs. So just in a couple of days ago, last week, Chad Bianco, the Republican nominee, one of the 2 for the California governor race, you heard him say another fictitious lie, which is clearly from somebody who has done no work in the area. He says, the problem with homelessness isn't about homes at all. It's about drug addiction and mental unwellness. And the reality is such that he's completely wrong. I don't know why we don't hold Republicans accountable for the lies that they are saying. And I shouldn't even say lies, because maybe he actually believed that was true. But the fact is, there's no data that supports that anywhere today. And if we keep addressing symptoms of the problem but never the problem, then you're never going to get a solution. And so what I see today is smart Democrats standing up all across our country who actually have plans, who actually have policy, and have actually done the research to prove that they can get it done. I'm a younger candidate. I'll be 39 next month. But one of the things I have to force, myself to do is show the work, show your plans, because I want people to believe me, right? I just want them to assume, oh, he knows what he's talking about. But I find that when I show my work and I let my feet do the talking for me, then I don't really have to work as hard. I've at that point allowed my actions to showcase why I run the way I do and why I speak the way I do. And I also share a lot of vulnerable stories, and I'll end it with this. If you want to get people's trust and you want to earn their vote, you have to first extend your trust and be vulnerable with them. That's how you develop trusted, close relationships, because politics is not won face to face. It's won on a trusted relationship to a trusted relationship. And to get there, it takes time and it takes commitment.
I can tell you one thing, being that you're from rural Missouri, you are the first Democratic candidate that I've ever known that's sponsoring rifle hunting clubs, fishing clubs. Like this is the exact type of thing that says, yeah, I'm from here. I trust you. You trust me. I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys know I don't hold any secrets here. He's back on here again for a second time because of that reason. And before we're going to get this thing started, and I just want to say that we finally have Olivia. I thought she was going to come a little bit later, but she is here. So let's let her introduce herself, and then we can get this thing started. How you doing, my friend?
Hi. Sorry that I'm a little late, but I had to put some fires out. It happens here and there. But my name's Olivia Logan. I am originally actually from Arkansas, but I've been in DC for the last 13, 14 years, doing consulting for down ballot races, and new candidates are my niche. And I also have a background in responsible implementation of AI.
And this is why we need you. This is why we need you. So I'm going to come to you. I don't want to go to you first, though. I want to make sure, YouTube, that we're going down the list of things that are important about this technology and this wealth gap and all of it. But the first thing is privacy. That's the one thing everybody knows about. And I want to go to Addie here because I believe your background in intelligence, right? Your background in intelligence may be helpful in this conversation. Right now, they're mining data, they're selling data, right? They're giving fake 28-page agreements that you have to agree to for things that some people would be calling necessary for infrastructure, like your light bill or your water bill, to not have internet or to not have YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is. There are some things that are considered that necessary. I'd love to know your take on the privacy part of this. Is there a way that we can curtail this mining, data selling? Is there something that we can do to make sure that the necessity of these tools are known legislatively?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying I'm definitely not an expert in this field, but in my opinion, what we need to do when it comes to privacy and them having too much access to it is, quite frankly, we just let them have that unfettered access for so long, and these services are necessary. Like when somebody goes, like everybody has to have a cell phone. In this world, we all have to have cell phones, right? So, most people are not going to go through and agree to all, or they're not going to read all the policy stuff that appears in your contract because everybody needs one anyway, right? And that's basically all the companies. And so when we have these basic necessities or these things that we need, and we have all of these data agreements, they're basically just taking all of the stuff for free. So the simple answer, well, if you want to, curtail that, then we have to have more regulatory actions upon that and actually only allow them to gather what is necessary or be able to use it for different services or, something like that. Like we have to actually regulate it. It's the simple answer.
Well, we at American Opposition just put out something. It's called the Two Fronts. It's our strategic document for after the election. I encourage everybody to go to our website and read it because we have a take on AI that I don't think anybody has surfaced just yet. And that is around the idea that it's going to displace the white collar workforce. You're already seeing fear among lawyers and among writers and among creatives because they are the ones that are most exposed by this technological wave. And it creates an interesting opportunity on two fronts as I see it. One is that because the white collar workforce is threatened, and typically when you have economic revolution, whether it's industrialization or any form of advancement, typically the people that are most exposed are blue collar workers. So when you saw the emergence of the industrial age in England in particular, you saw that there was about a 20-year gap when workers moved from hand jobs, handcrafted stuff, to industrial work. And for about 20 years, they suffered tremendously. I think we're going to see something similar this time, but around the white collar workforce, which creates a real opportunity because the worst plumber in America has more job security right now than the best lawyer in America. And that actually creates a real opportunity for us to leverage the power of the white working class and the professional class to actually create a very strong regulatory environment around AI. It's a huge population with a lot of money. It's primarily white, upper class or upper middle class, and those people can help us create real political leverage for massive change on the AI front. The second threat that we see is that anytime you have mass displacement of jobs or any kind of fear at mass scale about jobs or about the future, that tends to breed authoritarianism because somebody takes that fear and repackages it as grievance, and you end up with tyranny. And so the next wave of potential tyranny is around the massive displacement that could happen if AI continues to grow and develop and becomes capable of taking these jobs. And so we have this two-tier problem right now. Again, I would encourage everybody to go on our website and read in our updates page. It's called The Two Fronts. It's our vision for how this problem will emerge, how we can deal with it, because what we don't want to do is fight Trump and his tyranny only to have to come back 10 years later and fight somebody else because they captured the audience that is afraid of their jobs because of AI. And so we don't want to have to kill two birds with one stone. We would rather make sure that the post-election period, which is going to create a window for us to start reconstruction, a real reconstruction, unlike the one they had after the Civil War, can include addressing the AI issue preemptively to prevent it becoming the tyranny of the next phase.
Actually, this last week, here I'm in the state of Missouri right now. We have several we have about 4 billionaires in our state that call Missouri home, and 4 of them are directly linked to technology. And so when we're looking at AI and data centers, I know there's some genuine and bona fide fears around it. And, I did a couple of studies around Loudoun, Virginia, for example. It's the world's highest concentration of data centers in one county in Loudoun, Virginia. And what they've done is they've done a lot of engineering principles to make life better. They are acknowledging that there are environmental hazards, there are noise and nuisance hazards, as well as let's talk about the jobs that actually come with building a data center. Yeah, there are some construction jobs that are in the process of building and setting things down, but they're not permanent. They're not long lasting. Now, when we talk about well, how do we keep people employed? Because here's the reality: data centers today are a blue collar worker gold rush. They don't have anything similar to this. So I think in the same breath, and I agree, by the way, that we cannot, and this is directly stolen from Liz Schuler. She is the president of the AFL-CIO, but she said it best: we cannot allow AI to be this generation's NAFTA. We cannot allow this massive job displacement without any kind of regulation. So I agree with the AFL-CIO. I think they have a really smart strategy, which is install regulation, slow the process down, allow America to come to terms with it. And actually, Andrew Yang started last year talking about taxing out algorithms, AI, and automated machines, that if you do displace workers, there still needs to be some kind of revenue increase that we can support the public support programs necessary to capture those people before they fall through the net. And last, I think the other thing when we're talking about AI and data centers here is it's with the other 2 panelists, I agree. Regulation is absolutely necessary. We've seen just in 2025 what happens when Grok was without any kind of regulation. And you could see the reproduction of nudity in adult imagery. Now, one of the other things that has been long known is that there have been people who commit violence against children who have used AI machines to then alter these children's pictures and photographs. And under our American law system currently, if you alter an image such that it's no longer a real child, it's art. It's no longer a crime. For me, That's despicable. We need to change these laws. We need to encourage our digital privacy aspects of regulation as well in legislation. And let's be honest, we don't have digital privacy. And it's funny that we're talking about privacy in general, because privacy under the United States Constitution has only been found in one area, and that's under a privacy right to marriage. And that was using a penumbra effect underneath the court, and we've never used it again. So there's only one privacy right in the United States, a privacy right over your marriage, and we've never used it again. It's my firm belief that today's generation of leaders, when you're going into going into office, you better know the law and you better know the landscape, because Americans are hurt today. And furthermore, Doug or anyone else adding on this, you guys are the currency makers today. You are the mint. You are the U.S. Treasury at this point. Well, maybe not U.S. Treasury, but you're a treasury in and of yourself, meaning your data, the things you do, where you walk, where you shop, the things you see and read online, that data is the currency value today. Yet you're eliminated from consent and also consideration in the profit when your data is then leveraged against you or sold on your back. That's wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So we went into a lot of spaces that I was going to try to tackle individually, but since we're here, the AI data center, you live in the same place where they just kicked out half the small town in Missouri. They just kicked out half of the city council for okaying a data center, right? The people fought back and won. I've heard you say many times that, not many times, a couple times, that we're not going to get rid of it altogether because it's coming. I agree with that there. Missouri has some of the tech billionaires that run the state. But even there, they found a way to fight back. When you get kicked too much, when you push too hard, the things that you thought you couldn't do, you can when the people get angry enough. And my one example is all of the people who voted for the cruelty that now are going back and defying and turning against the same people who they voted for when they found out that the detention centers were going to be in their backyard. That's been all over the place, right? Yeah, I think that there's a chance for that there. What say you, sir?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Missouri has been hit by a number of things. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Actually, my opponent, Mark Alford, he tried to establish 2 detention centers in one of our counties, Cass County, without any kind of questioning, no debate, no nothing. Neither Belton nor Harrison even asked for this. He just offered it up. Within a couple of days, we had organized a small protest against Cass County commissioners, and they had already changed their mind. That's the power of being able to affect people. And it really was just a few phone calls of saying like, hey, I'm a community organizer. We normally have anywhere from 800 to 1,200 people show up when we get people mobilized. We're going to be there outside of the Cass County Justice Center in Harrisonville unless you change your ways. And within 2 days, they did. Now, fortunately, we were blessed because we had a rainstorm that day and we didn't actually have to go out. But thankfully, they had already changed their mind anyway. So we've pushed back against detention centers and ICE, but also in the same way that you brought up in Independence, Missouri, folks are mad. I don't even want to say mad. Folks are scared. Folks are scared more than anything else. They're afraid that if we put in data centers, what is this going to do to the utility draw here on my home? And when the number one reason for people to find themselves in homelessness is housing costs, I am one of the candidates that's going to tell you, I'm an engineer first. Unless we engineer a way to deal with these problems, like the noise nuisance problem, the vibration problem, the fact that they're temporary and not permanent jobs, the pollution to our climate, if we are not addressing these problems and engineering these data centers better, then we are losing the game. But here's the cool part. If you just look in Lancaster, California, Oslo, Norway, they're already doing the work. You just got to be willing to go out and do the research.
I mean, I think the largest concern that I hear from people, and we've kind of touched on this already, is job security. And then what's going on with our data that we're unaware of as they're collecting this information. And we're consenting without realizing that we're consenting. Like, we know we're consenting to things when we download an app or sign up for a program, but no one has time to read all of that. So they just assume the best intentions because they need the service. So we definitely need more clarity around that. Another thing, it kind of has to do with AI, but also kind of doesn't. We have not regulated biometric data. So I always tell people, I'm like, I don't use like my thumbprint on my phone. I don't use my face. If an app asks me for biometric data, I'm just like, I'd rather type in the password or my code or whatever, because I don't want to give people access to that may or may not use it for whatever purpose, whatever intention they have, because they have not provided clarity around that. Also, this allows law enforcement to open up your phone without your consent. And a lot of people weren't aware of that, but that was something that's been on my radar for almost a decade now, before this was as chaotic as it is. And so I think that's a focus that needs to be prioritized federally, for sure.
So here's the deal. I am not as well versed in this. I try my hardest to stay up on everything so that when I host these shows, I can refute, I can debate, I can ask the questions that I think the people need to know to get the deeper answer. This time, I'm not there. But I can show you what I've been watching. I can show you what I've been learning that I'm scared of. Check this out here.
These companies, because that's how we predicted social media accurately, is that you think that they're just going to make money and profit and get ChatGPT subscriptions?
Yes.
If you get all the ChatGPT subscriptions,
That is what I think.
yeah, well, so if you get all the ChatGPT subscriptions, that doesn't add up to paying off the amount of debt that they've taken. If you get all advertising in the world, that wouldn't pay off the amount of debt that they've taken. The thing that they're trying to do, the only thing that justifies the amount of investment that these companies are taking, is to build artificial general intelligence, which means to be able to replace every human worker in the economy.
There really couldn't be a better sponsor of today's episode.
So, to replace every single worker of the economy is different from unemployment numbers. That's a much more, right? That's much more, 10% unemployment is bad. Replacing every single worker in the economy is a diabolical freaking nightmare of Terminator.
Before I jump off and jump back in again, I will respond to that. I have been working in the AI space for like the last 5 years. And I will say, like, even though the dark side of tech thinks they can program AI to eliminate all jobs, I have yet to see an algorithm that doesn't need a human in the loop without it creating chaos. Now, I don't think the dark side of the tech world cares about this, but I think there are plenty of people that want to fight it and then want to regulate. And I think, you know, the best innovation that we have happens through safe environments and regulation. And I think that needs to be a priority for responsible tech companies that want to see their AI used in responsible ways. And it's a responsible move for our federal electeds to take on. I know some of the state electeds have taken this on, but we need to see this nationally. I'm going to jump back in a minute, one minute.
Speaking of the state representatives, Arizona. Now, I've only heard a bit of this, but you were talking about the water. Anytime that there's an AI data center or anything having to do with any type of environmental impact in Arizona, it's times two because you're already a desert. What are you seeing over there?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting that you bring that up. So recently in Arizona, we have a data center crisis in Marana. Now, granted, Marana is not in my district, but you know, anything that affects something like water in Arizona affects the entire country. And actually, interestingly, so in my district, in this great Republican stronghold, as they call it, Gail Griffin, who is, you know, the Arizona legislature is weird that we have term limits, but once you serve a certain amount of time in the House, you can, before your term limits are up, you can run for the Senate. And then before your term limits are up, you can run back in the House. So we see these Republicans who have been doing this back and forth, literally have like the same people for decades, right? But anyway, so she's one of them, and she's one of the oldest legislators we've ever had. She's really big on water. And recently what we've seen, and big on water in like the wrong direction, you know, she really sucks at it, and she's ruined Arizona for probably hundreds of years to follow. But she recently tried to propose a bill that would allow them to backdate it and, as in the future, be able to sell water from one of the basins in Arizona. And Arizona is one of those weird states. Majority of us don't get water from the Colorado. It's local aquifers and stuff like that. So, you know, so she was trying to get them to sell water, but what they also did was backdate it to where the data center would be able to then be built based on the water. And I recently posted about it and made a big deal about it on my social media, as well as the other people in Marana and stuff, because the bill, they got it to come back to the House. And so it's about to go back to, it's about to go back to it just got voted on in the Senate. It's about to go back to the House. And in the Senate, of course, the current legislator that I have that's going back to the House, which will be my competitor, he, of course, voted for it. All the Republicans said yay, but I also called out all of the Democrats who also said yay, which disgustingly was about 3 or 4 of them. And we, and so I also called them out too, because, they approved this. But yeah, it's funny you bring up data centers, because we're literally dealing with it right now.
I'm figuring in a place where, in a desert, any talk of that should be null and void. It should just end right there. But I need you, Carlos. I need you, man, because I'm hearing some diabolical shit, brother. I'm just going to be honest with you, and I have a feeling that that's why you have this. This is cartoon, mustache twirling, villain stuff. You live in the desert and you still find a way. Well, I wonder if there's a way that we could kill more people if we just backdate the selling of our water. Like, who's going to vote for you when we're all dead? I like the two fronts idea, because it's trying to get to the people the idea that, hey, you're involved in this too. But I'd like to know your talk on what she just said. What both of them just said.
Yeah, it's a natural resource disaster. Obviously, the data centers themselves, somebody mentioned AGI, which is the actual AI, meaning AI that's self-iterative, that can make itself better. My friend Gary Marcus, who's probably the leading expert and leading skeptic on AGI, would tell you that there are still many, many roads we have to travel before we get there. But regardless of who's right, there's going to be a time frame here where jobs are in threat, particularly white-collar jobs. People who took on debt to go to law school or to go to art school, who are designers, who are lawyers, who are writers, whose jobs are suddenly on the line. And I know a lot of people who are in that position and are already expressing that fear. And by the way, the reality and the fear have something to do with each other, but they also independently operate. The fear becomes grievance, which becomes tyranny and can be weaponized. So no matter what happens in the reality of AI, the grievance side of this is very scary. And the fear side of this is very scary, because what you have operating as the middle and upper middle class of America right now is suddenly very job unsafe. And those people then will express that in ways that can be very damaging to our society, particularly when you consider, as we did in that document that you just scrolled past, the two fronts, is that we're already under an authoritarian threat. So this is a second authoritarian threat that follows the one that we're currently in. So that's one piece of this. There's the environmental impacts and how we live with this. That's one piece. The second is our jobs and how we live with that. That's a second piece. And then the third is the politics that emerge from that, which are all scary. And deconflicting this and fixing this is going to be a very difficult process. I think, but what it comes back to, and the through line here, is human dignity, is the idea of what are we trying to achieve as human beings. Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, said in an interview that he foresaw AI being a mechanism through which you could have a unicorn, meaning a company valued at over $1 billion that would only have one employee, meaning the founder. So in Sam Altman's vision of the world, there is dignity in having one company worth $1 billion with one employee, the founder. We need to reject that as humans. We need to figure out who we want to be. Because, by the way, the funny thing is, one of the most developed areas of science fiction is the understanding of what comes down this road. And yet we are following the road. It's amazing, because a lot of very smart thinkers have written about this because it's such an obvious danger. And yet, if you think about it, to Addie's point, there is no regulation in Arizona for water use around data centers. I mean, where are we, right? There's not even the basic constructs of regulation around how do we manage this responsibly on the intellectual property side, right? If you're an artist or a writer and you've written things, AI is stealing your work every day and you're not getting paid for it. So there's the loss of dignity there. There's loss of dignity for tribal lands. There's loss of dignity for minority populations. There's loss of dignity for professionals who are certified, who've built up credibility, lawyers and et cetera. And so you're talking about a mass loss of dignity. From my frame, what happens is that we're fighting on the street to protect human dignity from Donald Trump. We're fighting for the kids who are having their testicles squished in concentration camps in America right now. We're fighting for the children worldwide who are dying because of USAID cuts, when this country already gave a third of what most advanced countries give in foreign aid, and they've cut it even further. So now we're causing a lot of death. Even programs like PEPFAR, which was the best Republican program ever, and it helped globally deal with the AIDS crisis that George W. Bush pushed into place, that program is now deficient to the point of dysfunctional. I mean, it doesn't work because of these draconian cuts. So you're talking about an elimination of dignity across so many sectors of our population that what I fear is that we are fighting for dignity right now on the streets. We are making progress on that front. But while we are leading on the streets and making progress and having to fight for both Republicans and Democrats for the basic dignity of people, we are quietly, these tech bros are standing behind Trump at his inauguration, but they're robbing us of our dignity systematically through technology. And so
anybody jump in.
We have a very serious dignity deficiency here, and we have a lot of people who are stealing it from us, and we need to come after them and come after them hard, and we need to reclaim human dignity for human beings.
I would agree with you in a lot of ways, Carlos, and you know, one of the, and I will fully admit, I did not drink the Kool-Aid when I went down this train of thought here. But I started doing some research into like where are all these, who wants to build AI data centers or data centers in general, and what is the overarching, what is the goal long term? You've probably all heard at this point, hopefully, about the spheres of influence theories. If not, I would Google it. Spheres of influence also ties into this. But you've heard Donald Trump continually say over the last year about the United States needs to control the Panama Canal. We then invaded Venezuela, toppled their government, replaced their leader with somebody that we chose. And then we went into Greenland. What the heck? These are really disparate locations. Why are they located together? Why does Donald Trump care? Well, if you look at what a technocracy is and what the tech nits were that Elon Musk's grandfather was arguing for, there's the North American technit that stretches from Greenland to Venezuela and utilizes the Panama Canal. Not even kidding. This is what they are getting their ideas from. Look up what technocracies are. Look up what technets were. They were an organized sort of thing in the early 1900s. And I'm going to not mean to distract us all, but in the same breath that we're talking about data centers, I mean, Google just bought, I believe, Kairos Energy. Microsoft bought Terra Nova Energy. Facebook over there in Arizona is trying to build a nuclear reactor right now. 3 Mile Island over in Pennsylvania, that's being opened up by Bezos next year. And QTS, which is the company that likes to build data centers, their primarily business is in data centers, they're also interested in building nuclear reactors. So, I mean, when we're looking at what the future landscape looks like, these are the same technocrat, oligarchic billionaires that want to now produce nuclear power. They're going to claim it's going to give clean, reliable, static energy for their data centers, that we're not going to have any of this utility problem. But ultimately, it leads them in a direction that technology executives, CEOs, billionaires will have more and more power. So to me, that's also a future reality that I'm not motivated for, because not only would billionaires like Bezos or Zuckerberg be in control of the ones and zeros that hold your data, but also the power that keeps them safeguarded and open. That's way too much power in the hands of such a small few who already have way too much. And I think that's an important wrinkle to add in here. And it might sound a little conspiratorial. I will fully admit this technocracy and is Musk really trying to do this. All I can say is go to his own page. At numerous times, there's a book called Deus, I can't remember the last word, Deus Zau, I think is the name, or Deus Max, something. It's a science fiction book that talks about technocracy and technets taking over the world. And that's something that he echoes and believes in. He's quoted the book numerous times. And so it's just sort of, when you get into the mindset of these guys, which is, I'm an attorney, I'm a constitutional lawyer. And to win arguments, you have to know what your opponent wants to get in the long run. And when you know what their motivations and needs are, you know how to stop them. And so I think right now, this is far bigger than just AI. I'm in line with everyone else saying, no, they're really trying to do massive job displacement, but it stretches further than just jobs. It's everything. Technocracy is taken over by lawful means, but it's really tech giants run your government, not your government.
Yeah, Doug, that's why Elon Musk called me evil, bro. You know,
Oh
at
my.
the end of the day, anybody who attacks, who understands what they are trying to achieve, understands that it's not just jobs. That's one thing, but the dignity component. I mean, let me put it to you this way. Facebook has a program, an ongoing program where they will continue your presence online after you die, meaning that they're trying to use AI to model your behavior online so that after you die, they can continue a profile based on whom you were while you were living. And that's a thing that they are testing out as a potential construct. And so the question becomes, who are you if there is no differentiation? If we live largely online and there's no differentiation between your voice and a bot's voice, and you're occupying a world where, you know, there is that differentiation, those lines blur, then all we are is data, and then we become incredibly isolated. We lose the social constructs and the cultural backbones that make us human, and then we are just feeding a big machine. And again, a lot of the science fiction writers, a lot of the films have shown us this. This is not an unpredictable future. It's pretty clear where this goes if we continue to allow it to go in that direction. And so as humans, we just have to figure out what matters to us, and we need to be able to stop certain things that we may call progress, because they're not actually progress. What they are is prisons being built by us for us, and we need to make sure that we govern ourselves, not just by saying, well, it's technological advancement, it's always good. That is obviously wrong, and we need to make sure we recognize that and that we're grown up enough. But then again, I also question whether we are, because we elected Donald Trump, and now Spencer Pratt is being taken seriously as a candidate for mayor in Los Angeles. And I'm honestly questioning whether we have the capacity to earn our ability to govern ourselves.
To be free?
You know.
Yeah. To be free. We are rapidly proving to the universe that we may not be able to earn our ability to be free. What we see here, guys, real quick, network states, communities would form online around a shared set of values. I'm already getting Nazi-esque. And acquire physical territory, becoming nations with their own laws. Now, the decrepit mind that comes up with this, that's what I'm scared of. Everything comes from that. The dignity, as you said, the whole point of doing a roundtable, in my mind, is not like CNN, so everybody gets entertained at the fight. But the reason why we do this is so that there's something tangible at the end that comes from the meeting of minds, right? So before we get to answers, before we get to legislation, before we get to what needs to be done and how we can do it and how you can do it as legislators when you get elected, the two of you, there's two more things that I want to talk about. And then we can get to real answers, including all of the things we've talked about. And one of them is gambling. If we're talking about technology, 2018, the Supreme Court struck down a 26-year nationwide ban on sports betting. And then after that, all hell broke loose. All hell. Prediction markets, betting on who's winning elections. So now the president has a stake in a prediction market that's betting on his platform. The idea that you bet on your baseball team so you don't get into the Hall of Fame is now paying the referees of elections. On my own platform, I have a prediction market of who's going to win this election. The consequences of buying that out isn't a lost game or missing the Hall of Fame one time. These are consequences that are absolutely, unbelievable. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, when it comes to this, I'm not as well versed, but I do want to show you what I've been seeing.
Have gotten to where they are by exploiting legal loopholes. Most of the gambling on stake.com, for example, is illegal in the US. To get around this, Stake is technically based out of Curacao and has a US-specific website, stake.us, which is aggressively pared down and more compliant with US law. But people aren't using stake.us. This dual setup they have lets the company advertise to Americans, knowing full well that most of these gamblers are absolutely not going to the baby URL and just getting a VPN to play with the real thing. Politicians have not caught up to tech this basic, so there's very little regulatory oversight of all this. And if that wasn't enough, the way this company operates as close to legality as possible, despite not having a gambling license anywhere in the country, is through a loophole in American no purchase necessary sweepstake law. Sweepstakes are legal so long as they don't require you to buy anything. So to qualify as a no purchase necessary sweepstake, Stake has built a little two-tiered digital currency system. There's gold, which you can buy like you would V-Bucks and can use to place bets on games just for fun, but it can't be cashed out for real money. But then there's Stake Cash, which comes free as a quote-unquote bonus with any purchase of gold. But unlike gold, Stake Cash can be exchanged for real cash or crypto. Because you can't purchase it directly, even though you basically did, it's technically a free entry and not breaking the law. Kalshi and Polymarket are running a similar racket. Even though no one would call betting on what Ariana Grande says on Fallon anything but straight-up gambling, a very sloppified kind at that, these companies and their CEOs are adamant that they are doing something else entirely. They call their services prediction markets.
Floor is open. I don't know what you want me to say. Yeah, that is.
No,
floor is open. I mean, my gosh.
I would say that anybody, look, I'm a big sports fan, and I think legalizing sports gambling, which I think is the window that led to the door that led to the whatever the hell is going on here. And then Donald Trump basically saying that the world has become a casino and it is what it is. At the end of the day, we either govern ourselves or everything falls apart. We either lead with greed or, allow greed to dominate, or we don't. And I think part of the problem here is that as a Kim Kardashian country elects Donald Trump. A reality TV country allows others to take whatever they want, and it encourages greed. And that's where we are. And ultimately, our ability to govern ourselves is based on us being serious people, being mature people, being willing to say no to ourselves. A very notable political mind once said that the problem with democracy is that eventually the population realizes that they can vote themselves to treasury and that everything falls apart when greed takes over. That's where we are right now, 250 years into the American experiment. We are falling apart to greed, and in every form, and to our unwillingness to do the hard work of citizenship, to stand up and own our lives and own our government and own responsibility for our future. The people that are going to pay the price ultimately are the people that are currently children. And that's really unfortunate because they have no stake in allowing this. But what we are doing, we're devaluing money, we're devaluing class, we're devaluing truth. We're devaluing everything that used to matter as of literally 30 years ago. And I'm not saying it was a better world 30 years ago, but at least we had self-governance as an installed software in our psyche. We had something about dignity and about respect and self-respect and all these things. And honestly, the world that has manifested in the past 30 years is in many ways more advanced and in many ways more equitable, but it's also more toxic and less responsible and less mature. And we have very few people doing serious writing. Where are our James Baldwins? Where are our minds who are leading us and saying, you know what, enough is enough. We can't legalize gambling on what Ariana Grande is going to say on a talk show, because it's not even a good construct for gambling in the sense that there is no protection against, her finding out and using it to make herself more wealthy, or the gambling that we saw around Iran and the fact that the Trump administration literally made potentially billions of dollars gambling on their own policies. And so we have just become a silly, silly humanity, and we are allowing ourselves to fall completely to the greed construct, and we're losing touch with truth, class, self-respect, all of these things. And honestly, again, Doug, we go back to, are we able to govern ourselves? This is what that shows, is that we would rather have the spectacle of our downfall than the hard work of our sustainment. And as long as that's the equation, as long as we're a Kim Kardashian country, we're obviously going to end up electing Donald Trump. And then Idiocracy, which is one of my favorite movies because I thought it was a comedy, turns out to be a documentary.
I think Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett, he said it really well. Gambling is a tax on the ignorant. It really is. And if you look at gambling on sports betting, the odds are so disproportionately not in your favor. You will not win. Even there was a guy who was just on NPR who was given an entire year to be a sports gambler. And so he went into it. He thought it was goofy and silly. He quickly found out that it would be all encompassing and consume all of his life. And he was just reading stat after stat after stat. He still wound up losing over $200,000, I believe, during the experiment. Or maybe it wasn't that quite high, but it was very, very high. I think it might have been 200,000. It was very, very high over the course of a year. And it was, he would read markets every day, but it would be, one person would have a sprained ankle. Rain would happen and it'd throw the game off. Several instances in sports betting, the calls are changed after the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it may appear during the game that you win, but then afterward you lose because of, a correction on the record of some kind. So for gambling and that sort of thing, in a country today where, we have so many people, 60% of the nation is living below the poverty line, rampant in food insecurity, healthcare deserts everywhere. Gambling is another predatory practice, in my opinion, that seeks to take advantage of people's desperation, that seeks to take advantage of people hoping that, oh man, if I just win the lottery, maybe I can take care of my cancer. Maybe I can take care of my kids. Maybe I can take care of this family a little bit better with their health. And it's just, it seems like it's another tool to rob the poor to give back to those who already have enough.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jordan, because I was going to say something like that, where like this is kind of what happens when you have the biggest wealth gap in history. I mean, when people become so desperate that they are willing to spend their food money because they're like, yeah, but if I win though, it'll be worth it, even though the odds are so low. It's desperation, and I can't necessarily blame them completely for that because I understand.
Yeah, I grew up in Hot Springs, Arkansas. They have a horse racing track there, and then they recently attached a casino. Yeah, and it's a catch-22 because they used that money to revitalize the downtown. So like something good came out of it, but you also have to pay attention to like there's a lot of people with addiction when it comes to gambling. And that's where I have major issues because you are preying on the vulnerable in that regard as well. And
you're making the crack. You're making the crack. And then it's selling it to them. Yep.
Yep, absolutely. And I remember I had just turned 18, so I was able to gamble on my own. And I never was really into the casino portion. I had always been into the horse racing, and I was really good at making those bets. But I could tell, like, when I would go down to the paddocks to look at the horses, who was there to try to get tips. And you can buy tips from bookies, which is also another predatory practice as well. But you can also go and listen to the people that know about the horses and the tracks and have watched their careers. And they would literally be following me and a couple of my friends around just to like get our insights. But like, we were right about 50-50 because it's a very unpredictable sport.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
so,
when you say really good, I'm saying 50-50 is about the best you're
exactly
gonna get, which is the point. Yeah.
And I'd profit a little bit, but at the end of the day, like when you think about every day, you win some, you lose some, I'd break about even by the end of the season. And these people would just put hundreds of thousands of dollars on these horses and then just end up broke because of it. And I watched it happen all the time, which was why I would temper the expectations when I'm talking, because I know these people were overhearing what we were saying and then taking their money and placing those bets. And I'm like, I don't want to be part of feeding their addiction by increasing their risk. So I'm going to talk about the less risky moves because I know what they're doing, and then keep the more risky moves to myself if I'm able to make those moves that day. But I don't want to feed their addiction as much as like they're already feeding it themselves.
Here's my thing. We're the Democrats. I have a feeling that the same 3 Democrats who voted for to get rid of the water in the desert in Arizona are the same Democrats that know that there is a loophole to go to Caraco and then start a sweepstakes daggone program, right? And keep the betting going because they're also in the market for the money. And this is where the greed comes in. Where are you, Democrats, on stuff like this? You don't, I am living in a state, a red state. It lets you know exactly how, the Republican mind is thinking. Everything needs to just make it unregulated. Make it unregulated. We need to have the sports betting. We need to have this and that. And that's what it was until it starts to get crazy. And the same people on the same sports radio talk show that I listened to that was saying that for 10 years is saying, this is a bit much. This is a bit crazy. Well, what's going on here? You could get those votes.
Doug, if it was money, that would be amazing, because at least money tends to have 2 sides. There's somebody paying money and somebody receiving money.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to use this moment to say that a lot of the influencers who we have in our movement, people that are fighting Donald Trump, just showed up at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah.
And so my point to you is, if money was where the greed, what satisfied the greed, that would at least mean that it's an economic transaction where there's a winner and a loser and you have some protection. But people will do it just for clicks and attention, which is literally worth nothing. The algorithm can give it to you for free. Why does everybody assume that every like you're going to get on Instagram is going to be a real person liking your post? Instagram could just start giving you likes and make you feel good about yourself. And then they don't even have to pay you. So the question here of greed is not just the question of money, although money is obviously the fulcrum that generates the most greed. But the sad thing is that people will sell out for clicks that are imaginary, for reactions that that are never transactional, because they don't know the person on the other side. It's not like, oh, I got a click from somebody I know and I'm proud of that. It's no, there's 10,000 clicks from people I've never met, and that makes me feel whole, which is such a cheap way to corrupt people, and it's working like gangbusters. So the sad thing is that we're not in a situation where it's like even a mature greed of like, I want to make more money and I want to elevate my station in life and I want to pay for my kids' college. No, people are betraying what they believe. They're betraying themselves, their kids' future, their country. They're betraying a lot of things just for likes on an imaginary platform. This is really way worse than I think we're making it out to be. And sports gambling is an obvious version of this, but it's happening even in our movement. We notice people showing up to things where you go, why are you showing up in a room with a Nazi who's torturing kids at concentration camps, who previously raped children, who is in a room with complicit media that is helping him do it, that are all owned by 8 people, and you're showing up after you've been protesting them on the streets? And how do you square that circle? You know what I'm saying? And so even people that are conscientious people, good people that are fighting the right fight for the right reasons, are open to the idea of betraying themselves for likes or for advancement or for whatever. And in a lot of cases, that's not even monetary, man. It's so cheap. We are becoming such cheap assholes. And frankly, it's like, it's reality show TV, and it's just now everybody is trying to participate in it. And it's really sad, because we need to listen to voices who know what they're talking about. And what we're doing instead is surrendering to voices that just want attention. And it's a dopamine thing, but eventually that'll run out and we will all be in rock bottom together going, what the fuck happened? with robots running our world and all of the predictions that have always been made coming true just because we weren't better than our own consciousness. You know what I'm saying? And that's a really tragic situation to be in.
I think it's interesting, with the war in Iran, I think everybody's aware that there was somebody who was betting on this war and somebody who was making a lot of money off of it. And they just recently announced that there were a couple of people who were actually operators, soldiers who knew about their mission operations that were coming up, and they put bets, they put them out there. So those people have been captured, they have been found, and they are being held criminally responsible. But at the same time, I have to ask, what's the difference between a soldier or some PFC, some private first class, who makes less than $36,000 a year, him putting a bet out there because he has no choice or say in the operation anyway, he has got the orders, he has to go. Is it really insider betting for this guy? Or is it really no, I know this is going to happen, I have the orders, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And in my mind, it's what frustrates me is that we already have a gambling system in the United States that our corporate class always wins the bet. It's our taxpayer who are putting the bet on the field and putting it on the table, and it's corporate class that always walks away with the winnings. And so this idea of holding people then, this soldier is what I'm getting at, holding him accountable or her accountable, I don't know how they express themselves. But you're going to hold this young person accountable, but you're not going to hold accountable the damn government that gave rise to the situation that allowed for this to happen. And don't get me wrong, prediction markets, Kalshi, and all that other crap, when you're taking bets on people causing wars, I have a problem with you. I have a genuine problem with you because I want to know who else is invested into Kalshi, who else is invested into that pot of money, and who else is going to be making it off of blood money. I mean, Missourians are going to be the ones who are going to go out there, not just us, but the point remains, it'll be Missourian sons and daughters who go and die in Iran for this idea of weapons of mass destruction that don't exist all over again. And it's just, we got to get past this. I see it as Kalshi is, and these prediction markets they need to be reined in. They need to be held criminally responsible for some of the actions that have come as a result of the more violent bets that they place. It's not just on global events, it's also on everyday events. It's anything. It can be anything. And so it's just, I think it's out of control.
Okay, I'm looking for solutions. And before we get there, there's one last thing that I got to talk about because I have a young son and I see this all the time and it's affecting his life. It's affecting his mental state. Last night I was reading a book and he was talking about being scared of dying. He's 8. He's 8 years old. He was talking about being scared of the future. What happens if the sun explodes? Now, I grew up, I had depression, right? And a lot of other things that I have that I've passed on to all my kids, unfortunately. And we have therapy as a way of life in my family. But there's something different. Technology is being used to destroy our children on purpose. Whatever anybody says to me about that conspiracy or, Beelzebub, no, I don't care. This is what they're watching.
I was thinking when I saw the Gen Alpha write that was, you're Gen Alpha and you can write? Okay, not gonna lie.
That little clip you saw right there, that crazy, just brain rot, death, scary, crap on the mouth, sharp teeth, things turn black, jump scare. This is on the child's version of YouTube. This happens, I had to turn off YouTube altogether. This is on purpose. This is no reason. There's no entertainment reason for a kid to see that. What was already playing there was already interesting enough. The silly song, the funny characters was already enough. That thing right there happens at the second click. You click in, I love Paw Patrol. The second click is Paw Patrol, but darker. I love Sonic. The next thing that comes up is Sonic, but his girlfriend gets fat and then explodes. On the kids' part. No, you don't know the half, Eddie. Only when you have kids you realize it is a daggone freaking concerted effort to do the most destructive, mind-bending things to the smallest children for no reason. No reason. I don't know if anybody else can speak to it, or
it's not a conspiracy, Doug. It's Gen Z. Forget Gen Alpha for a second, but Gen Z is the first generation in history that will be less capable than the generation that fathered them and mothered them. Gen Z is spending more time in school, but the introduction of digital, and so the schools, let's say for a second that the schools haven't changed that much. You still go to a building, you show up, you have a teacher, the constructs are similar. But for the first time ever, this generation of kids that is now Gen Z, meaning they're adults now, they vote now, is less capable than their parents were. And that is the first in American history. And it's down to the digital tools that they are employing to teach kids because of what it does to their attention, what it does to their self-esteem, what it does to their confidence, their socialization, and a bunch of other metrics that matter. And so, yeah, you're right. It's not a conspiracy, though. It's not only factual, the impacts are here. They're with us. Gen Alpha is only going to get worse. It's a stupefaction that is hard to understand. And the unfortunate part is that generational movement is so quick. If you think about it, Gen Z is about to become parents themselves. And so the parental example won't be there because the parental example will have been corrupted by the same situation that is now infecting their kid, the Gen Alpha kids, and that will eventually infect the generation that comes after. So, it's not just the entertainment side, though. I mean, the YouTube thing is one problem, and hopefully parents can turn that off. But kids going to school are learning less, and they are less competent than their parents were for the first time ever. And that means that if it's infected the schools, yeah, of course it's going to infect YouTube. But we need to, in 1974, the U.S. was #1 in the world in public education. And today we don't rank in the top 30. And that decline is continuing. And every candidate here has mentioned education. Education is a silver bullet. It solves so many other things. We talked about self-respect. We talked about dignity. We talked about all of these things. Aspirations come from education. It's what, you learn what you are capable of, and then you take bets on yourself rather than taking bets on sports market. And that delivers you a life, and you're supposed to live in an equitable society where some of that work is rewarded in a specific way. All of those constructs are dying. And I think the conversation we're having today, in a weird way, we've moved through a lot of different areas, but we're talking about the same thing, which is the construct of human dignity, how we propel ourselves forward, how we govern ourselves, how we respect each other and ourselves, and what we are aiming to achieve in this 80-year span that we are gifted. And I think all of it is falling apart at the same time, and we're talking about different elements of that downfall. But it all comes back to us taking responsibility for ourselves, for each other, and just not surrendering to the trends, because the trends are our downfall, right? And so, it's one big conversation.
Before you go, Jordan, Addie, I am not an expert at this, but I do know on purpose mental conditioning and what it looks like through pictures and lights. Am I wrong for thinking what I'm thinking here? If you saw 10 of those things that you just saw in a row and you were 7 or 6, everything's great. Turns wild. The greatest soft music. You're the cool characters turning scary, ugly, dark, drooling, sharp teeth. Every time you click on something that starts out entertaining, does the switch up, does the light, has the infection music. Am I wrong here, or is it just a coincidence?
I mean, no, I think you have a point. I mean, I had no idea because again, I don't have kids, so I don't watch the kid version of YouTube. But like, no, you're right in a mental conditioning aspect. Yeah, if you're shown the same thing over periods of time, or even close to the same thing, then you will start to condition yourself, and especially when your brains are still developing. I mean, yeah, no, I'd say that you're spot on, honestly.
Yikes! All right, go ahead, Jordan. And we can even start wrapping up. This was just the ending, but I'd like to see solutions. I'd like to see what you guys are thinking about legislation. How can we attack some of these things we talked about, and we can all go. But you start, Jordan.
Oh, sure. Well, what I was going to add on there was also, I wonder if Carlos, maybe you and I might have seen the same study. There was a guy who was, I think it was a TED Talk I was watching, where he had made a statement that, this is the first generation in our human history that we've been tracking these sorts of things, that we see every single factor for this generation going down, from social awareness, interpersonal relationships, executive brain function. And they've linked it all down to technology replacing teachers. It's not just that. I'm not going to say teachers are the problem. They're not. It's that idea of replacing a human with a device and letting the device teach you. That's the problem. So and it could be a teacher giving you an iPad or a laptop, or it could be a parent putting you in front of a TV. Either way, the result is the same. The brain doesn't work. All the problems are solved for you. The information is given to you. It decreases your critical problem solving. It decreases your ability to find patterns. And these are really important functions out in the real world, especially, as we're trying to navigate and prevent the same problems from happening again, or looking out for dangers, those types of things. So I think it's interesting, that this is that time that we're thinking, technology is going to help us all learn better, be smarter, and be better Americans. And in the reality, no, there's a lot of social aspects to brain development that can only be brought forward through human interaction. I think today's been awesome. We've covered a lot of ground, like we've talked about. Well, one of the things that I am keeping on the forefront of my mind is exactly what Liz Schuler had said, the president of AFL-CIO. She says, we cannot allow AI to be today's NAFTA. And I think that's the best, most simple way I've ever heard it put. And I agree with her. As an attorney, my career field is on the chopping block, one of the first to go. But also, let's give an example of something that we as attorneys have already done, which is throughout the United States and the American Bar Association, the rules are such that you can't use AI to draft your briefs or to file anything in court. And if you are found out that you're using AI to do that, you will lose your bar license, hands down. And it's already happened here in the state of Missouri. In industries where we see, I appreciate you, Carlos, sticking up for artists as well. I got into law as a patent lawyer. I started out in intellectual property and trademark, copyright, and patent. And so I think about, engineers, designers, creators, choreographers, musicians, artists. I would burn my own art. And if you put that stuff online, and this has always been the rule, this is nothing new with AI. Once you put it online, it's public. You don't have access to it anymore. It's on the public bulletin board. That's how the law is currently written. Can we change it? Absolutely. And that's what we need right now. We're working off of documentation and things like that stretch 250 years and more. And in our United States Constitution, it doesn't go back to 1776, but in our United States Constitution, you know what's not in there? The word digital. You know what's not in there? Internet, biometric. And it should be, because these are the words that are going to revolve around our lives moving forward. These are the words that are going to shape our future and tell us how we can and cannot participate in our communities, in our society, and in our government, ultimately. So for me today, I just want to say thank you for hosting this conversation. As we wrap up, I do want to say sports gambling, like Warren Buffett said, is a tax on the ignorant. You will not win. It's better to put your money where it's safest. Put it into candidates who are actually working for you. Put it into policy that's actually going to deliver back for you. Put it into organizations, ideological organizations that you actually embody and believe in. That's where your work is going to get done. Thanks,
as a matter of fact, I believe right up there, you're going to see a QR code. You want to put your money somewhere, holla at your boy, people. Because we got candidates on here, we got insiders on here, we got Carlos Alvarez-Aranyos, we got superstars on here. This stuff, they're doing it for free. They're doing it because they love this country, or they love the country that it can be and want to make it that way. And as am I, as have I've always been. We need your help. Independent media needs your help. If it's not me, make sure you're going over there to Jesse Dollamore. Make sure you're finding people who are doing the independent media out there. And yeah, that's a safe bet. That up there is a safe bet. That QR code. We also use it to help people in need and to do things we don't necessarily say out loud since this regime has taken hold. Anyway, whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. We're talking about solutions, and I mean, for me, I think that all the things that we talked about can be boiled down to three basic solutions, but I mean, you know, there's nuance built into it. But I mean, the first I think is obviously regulation. We have to regulate stuff. And part of that is getting, you know, candidates who aren't on Social Security or old enough to be on Social Security into, you know, legislative roles. That would probably be part of the, you know, part of it. But you know, because they have to be able to understand what's going on.
Wait a minute before you end that. Don't just brush over that, my dear. Understand what she just. I'm talking to the. Understand what she just said. I have no problem with older folks. I'm going to be one of them. My knee right now is the size of a grapefruit. I don't know what I did to it. I have aches and pains. I'm about to be old as hell. I feel it coming. But the truth is, I had to go to videos to talk about this because I haven't grown up in it. And I consider myself knowledgeable, talking to people like these fine people here every day. And I still don't know what someone 10 years younger than me would know. And I would love that person in the office to talk about this. We've got to keep that in mind. It's not about ageism. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue on. That's important.
No. You're absolutely right. Especially being in where I am, like I get most of my support from people, you know, from elderly people or people in their 60s, and they know a lot. But at the same point, we have to elect younger people because they have the newer ideas. Generally speaking, they're the ones who have to inherit everything, so they should have a say in it, and they care more about it if they have to. So that's the first one. And then second solution I'd say is public funding for schools. I think multiples of us have talked about it, but basically the schools are underfunded. They're inadequate, and that if you actually have better education, it leads to a lot of the solutions to the other problems that we're talking about. Is if you have better schools or more funding for schools. And then the other thing I would say, I know it's not going to be a hot topic. Hot button topic for you, Doug, but I mean, tax the rich. You know, we have a wealth gap. And maybe all these, you know, billionaires, maybe they should pay more, and maybe some of this stuff would be solved if, you know, people actually had their basic needs provided. So that's what I think are the main solutions to this.
When it comes down to it, that's one that just almost immediately, I mean, depending on how you use the tax money, but almost immediately solves 90% of the problems that we're in. If we're taxing the rich, the richest country on earth actually taxes them what they would be taxed any other country. We wouldn't we're the richest country because we have three of the richest people, but then we'd actually be the richest country again and have the resources to prove it in our education and blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. Carlos, what you got?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, the distribution of wealth doesn't just affect our political system in the macro. It affects our communities in the micro. If people have more money, they can give it to their local homeless shelter. They can give it to their local food bank. And that distributes money both in terms of people making money and being secure in their own lives, but being able to target money at specific communities and at specific people in their communities and empower people. And that's a bottom-up answer. And I think ultimately, this movement that we launched last year is all about empowering the American people and making sure that everything that happens starts from the bottom and goes up. This is grassroots in every way. And I think it's the first time in history where the need for grassroots isn't just organizing and voting, it's everything. It's about deconstructing our society and rebuilding it around communities and individuals and empowerment and equality and social justice and a belief in each other. And it's about redrafting our social contract. All of these problems can't just be solved by money. I will disagree with you, Doug. I think we can solve wealth inequality and still not fix the dignity crisis. I still don't think we fix the education crisis. I still don't think we fix the fact that we're addicted to reality shows and to bullshit lives and to Botox and all of these other things that are making us fake people. And we need to go back to some version of reality where we believe in ourselves, we believe in each other, we believe in our kids, we believe in our future, and we're willing to work for it. And we're not looking for shortcuts, and we're looking to build structures out of cement rather than wood and things that will outlast us and build legacies and build lives worthy of the fact that we outswam 300 million sperm to get this trophy that is our body and this prize that is our life, and that we need to imbue that with some sense of dignity and worth, because it's up to us ultimately to decide what it means to be human and what is worthy of being human, and whether we lead with love and light or whether we lead with greed and darkness. And ultimately, I think the problem that we're in is a function of a deep rot in our human construct, in our relationships with each other and towards each other. And until we fix that, money becomes a mechanism for paving over a lot of this stuff without addressing the root cause. Ultimately, we need to talk about how people feel worthy, how people feel loved, how people feel respected. And when we talk about, whether it's Black and brown rights or trans rights or LGBTQ rights more broadly, we're not really talking about those rights. We're talking about the construct of dignity and equality and love and respect that undergirds our entire system of habituation of this planet. And it's not even country specific, it's global. And so we need to figure out who we are and what we're worth to each other, and how we treat each other with love and dignity and respect, how we care about when somebody tells the truth versus where they lie, and how we gauge people for that. And by the way, judgment needs to be reintroduced. I think one of the things that we made a huge mistake on was saying all judgment is bad. Guess what? Some judgment is good, because if somebody's a liar, they should be judged into a position where that penalizes them. And part of our problem now is what we've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater in figuring out what is good and what is bad. And I do think that we need to build a moral backbone to our existence that revalues honesty, that revalues hard work, that revalues discipline, that revalues love and affection and responsibility, for ourselves, for our kids, for everybody. And then we need to teach that. We need to not just master it for ourselves, but master it so that we can pass it on. Because again, human dignity is in the balance, and we are losing the fight. And if we don't win it soon, we're going to blow ourselves up. It's just, we're already that close, And so my goal is bottom up and figure out and fight for a country that has meaning and fight for lives that are worthy of our existence.
Yeah, it's too late to have a proper disagreement and argument with you, but I want to say that incentives, right? Even the Black and brown problem, even the race problem, which is a white people problem, not a Black and brown problem, but even that incentive was started with finances. The people watching reality TV, it's because of the finances are the incentive. It costs less to produce. And it's easy to put out there.
And you're not wrong about that. I'm just saying that the incentives.
But a lot of it would be fixed as things get fairer. Right. But anyway, that's another discussion. I'll have you back on. We can slap box later.
Anytime.
I love that though, man. Thank you for coming. Olivia. Oh, what you guys see right here, I just want to make sure you guys could see. If you go to A Swallow for AZ, A Swallow for AZ is where you'll find Addie as she's called here, but Aiden Swallow. If you live in there, check it out. This is her website here. I just put it up so everybody can get a feel for what she's got going on there. I endorse her. The Political Drain endorses, period. Okay, Olivia, how are you? What do you got for me? What's our solutions? Where do we go? And what do you think about that crazy kid stuff?
I mean, personally, for me, with my career trajectory of supporting candidates, I look for candidates that are prioritizing people over money, because essentially that's the through line of everything that we have discussed today. And I'm looking for candidates right now that support responsible regulatory practices in everything, whether it's gambling, whether it's AI, whether it's prioritizing workforce. And I think that workforce through point addresses the education piece that we discussed. Technology can teach you some things, but that human to human interaction is so important in the education process. And another thing that I prioritize when I'm looking at candidates, I've worked with a lot of educators that are running for office now because they see these challenges every day. And so that's essentially the way that I am addressing these issues, is advocating for these candidates that are making this their priority and taking a chance and really putting themselves out there.
So I will end it here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as I guess every time I click back on and off, it's hard for them to hear me, so they have to go in and out the back room. But there is supposed to be, at the end of a roundtable like this, a sharing of ideas, meeting of the minds, things that you can take home, things that you can take to the ballot box, things that you can take to your questioning and your emails and your knocking on the doors. When you go to the Capitol building or when you go to the offices, because I know that everybody watching this, that's what you do. We do direct action. We remember whose house and whose offices those belong to. We don't, writing an email is good, but a handwritten letter is better. But being up, being there, showing up, right? Getting a coalition, getting your family members and your community members together saying, what are we doing about the AI plan? What's happening on YouTube here? Where's the regulation for the gambling, for the betting? These ideas, the legislation that may be presented here, are things you should be looking towards and asking the people who are running where you are if they're for that, if they've even thought about it, and if they haven't, maybe they should. That's what happens at the end of a proper roundtable. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you guys for being here. And I promise you, we're not going anywhere. I'm on your left.
Go, go, go. Resist, resist. Oh, resisting. Resist. Fuck this shit's going down. That's right here, right now. The political drain. Just the news you need. Nothing driven by greed. No sipping Kool-Aid. Sims cooking on that knee.
That was the Political Drain podcast, which can be heard on www.groovechillradio.com/political-drain and can be viewed on the Political Drain YouTube channel anytime. Once again, thank you for listening to Groove Chill as we resist fascism in any form, pursue democracy, peace, and love.